Hi, everybody. This is Katie Covey. I'm the DRE for Soul Matters. And today I'm going to be recording the Leaders Lab for the November theme of Holding History. And welcome to those of you who are watching this recording. We'll open with a little reading from the worship packet by Karen Johnson. As we gather this morning, let us be a people of not forgetting. Let us practice holding collective memories that might otherwise slip into that enormous void that sucks at and corrodes any future we hold dear. In this packet of Holding History for our children, there are 4 lessons. The first lesson is people die, but memories don't. The second is that we stand on the shoulders of those who come before. That's on honoring the work that's been done and passed on to us and holding on to the responsibility for moving that work forward. The third lesson is freeing, healing, and beauty with truthful telling. That's on holding up the hidden, painful, and shameful parts of history as a means of healing and repair. The fourth lesson is called 7 Generations. Looking back and looking forward with responsibility. So let me tease out each of those 4 buckets and share a little bit of show and tell with you. I was particularly excited this time by the truthful telling of some of the residential stories. This came out in our brainstorm lab. Molly of Denali has a wonderful session, little story on how her grandfather, who went to residential school, is healed by her finding out his songs. And I just wanted to lift up how beautiful that show is from PBS, as well as how you could use it for the truthful telling lesson. So people die. This is about listening to the ear of our heart. So as you use, and I grew up sort of dogmatic humanist, you in my family, we don't talk about supernatural. And yet, over my career, I've had people tell me that they actually hear the voice of the loved one they have lost. They may even hear the meow of their precious cat who passed away. And so I don't want to limit that sharing by not talking about it. And so in the People Die, but Memories Don't, we use the book that I rarely can read without crying to children, but it's Granddad's Prayers of the Earth, beautiful, nature-oriented. Granddad takes this young man out into the world, and he talks about the prayers that the earth does. See, this is the look. Trees pray, clouds pray, all those things in nature do their own way of praying. And that's a really good way to introduce the idea of prayer, which I find families, when they gather at Thanksgiving, there's often an awkward moment. Is someone going to say a prayer? Is the uncle who's strict going to want to say a prayer? And then help families in our community understand what we can do with prayer, that we can pray the way that the rocks do, the trees do, which is being intentional and giving worth to something. There are some rock crafts and whisper games suggested, which might work online or multi-platform. In particularly, I wanted to lift up the whole idea of taking a walk in nature, just like the grandpa and the boy do. That's an outdoor activity, can be socially distanced. And you know what? It's a beautiful thing just to take a walk together, if you can do that. The final piece I wanted to lift up in that first lesson is the memory tree. If you're on our YouTube channel, Carla Miller has posted a beautiful interactive memory tree activity for all of us to use. So thank you, Carla. As well as the idea of a memory tree, you can do it with children, or you can do it with your whole congregation. And there are links to both ways. Second lesson is standing on the shoulders of those who come before. One of the coolest things I found out about the standing on the shoulders, besides the fact that Isaac Newton is sort of considered a British Unitarian, but he really isn't. And Isaac Newton is the one who made that phrase famous. However, the next standing on the shoulders idea, which I use in the Wonder Box, is the one that our former president, Barack Obama, had. The arc of the universe bends towards justice. He loved that quote so much that he had it embroidered in a rug and set in the Oval Office while he was in office. Now that came from, in his view, the shoulders of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who used that during his time as a civil rights leader. The arc of the moral universe bends towards justice, to say, and we have to help it bend towards justice. And that very quote came from our own Unitarian, 1800s Unitarian minister, Theodore Parker, who has this whole quote in there. So you see, there's an example of 3 ways that each person stood on the shoulders of another person to pass that beautiful phrase on. The book that's used is recommended by the Widening the Circle research team, because there is an example. Oh, and the PBS Molly of Denali, those were all recommended by the Widening the Circle research team, so that history is not just chosen by the powerful members of the dominant culture. Adrienne Summerlot, one of our research team, has written a companion piece that goes with this. And wait, it's The Undefeated by Kwame Alexander. I'm sorry, I'm missing my lessons up. That was chosen by the Widening the Circle team. And Adrienne wrote a companion piece for The Undefeated. And then I wanted to show you the activity. One of the activities we suggest starts with a piece of foil about this size, maybe 2 feet. I'll put that over there, and you tear it. You tear arms and legs and a head. There's a nice video. And you come up with a foil person. And the wonderful thing about this foil is it's so manipulative. You can give this guy or this person anything. You can have them holding up another person. You can hang them up, and I will hang this foil person up here to stay with us through the rest of this recording. That's something we used to do in cons a lot. Standing on the shoulders, tin sculpting. Then we talk about freeing healing and beauty through truthful telling. That's the one of the Molly and Denali program that I mentioned earlier. And the news has just been full of the residential school tragedies where they're discovering the bodies of the boarding children buried in mass graves, and the kinds of things that we need to do to help that tragedy. Want to mention and lift up that we want to say, what do we do now with our children? That these are people still alive who attended some of these residential schools, and that this tragedy is not that far gone. Also, there's a really neat digital map that shows which native homeland you live on. So I just want to lift that up. The final lesson is 7 generations. I want to correct this, that I made the very mistake that is part of our white supremacy culture. I said that the Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois nation, was the oldest democracy. It still is. You can visit their website, and there it goes, my own slip. It is the oldest democracy in the world that we know about. We go on and go on, don't we? So the book, there's 2 possibilities today that we are suggesting for the 7 generations. One is the Not My Idea book. And this is one of the books that the Widening the Circle research team admitted that they had the most pushback, that white families would say they're very uncomfortable with the sort of difficult experience this little white girl has. And they want to lift up that being in a culture that is white supremacist and being a person of color, you're experiencing this discomfort all the time. And that was one of the suggestions for us who are leading our families when they express this discomfort with this book, to use that discomfort as an example of how racism creates discomfort for our BIPOC cousins and families. The story is, racism was not my idea. We don't need to defend it. We do get to take it apart together. That's the sort of shell of story, the seed of the story that you want to grab. The second story for the 7 generations is Leah's video on how we can carry on our history proudly. So I commend that to you too. You can use both of them. You can use either of them. I love them both, actually. So I hope that you enjoy the Holding History themes this coming month. And I wanted to close with one of my closings. Here we go. For Memory That Heals and Holds, by our team leader, Reverend Scott Taylor. We honor the history that holds and heals us, the stories of heroism that inspire our own, the faces of loved ones who have passed, whose images we see in our better selves. For reminders of those who paved the path on which we travel and blessed us with advantages we didn't earn all on our own. These memories do not live in the past. They carve the contours of our present. They throw themselves into our futures and lure us into building a better life for all. They are here today. Look, listen, let them in. May their light guide our way. Thank you for joining me today. Blessed be. Amen.